Capcom is back with their most ambitious Monster Hunter title yet, with Monster Hunter Wilds. This is one of the year's biggest games, so of course I, and about 10 million other people around the world, had to jump in and see what all the fuss is about. Let's take a look at Monster Hunter Wilds in this review. Monster Hunter has come a long way since the days of it being a niche, only popular in Japan series. It's got a global audience this time, and they have some pretty high expectations, myself included. Not only am I wanting that classic monster hunting action, but I wanted the series to evolve and grow along with those expectations. Thankfully, Wilds isn't just another iterative hunting adventure. There are a number of changes here attempting to take Monster Hunter into a new place. Some great and some only okay. The first major change Wilds enacts is an attempt at a full narrative. Other entries in the series have only had loosely connected major events or themes to act as a basic campaign. Now, we have a full story to plow through. It acts as a guided tour of the world, but also an extended tutorial for each area, the major encounters, and just as a way to let the setting wash over you. Or at least that's what it's trying to do. We play as a hunter. Our goal is to escort an expedition group into a new region and search for a mysterious child's village. Along the way, we meet a variety of people in the areas that we explore. Each has their own culture, quirks, and problems. Honestly, it's quite a nice effort in this regard. The weather is a core concept in Wilds too. With huge swings in their patterns, seeing the environments and the life within it change is a neat touch to the experience. There's also a serious attempt here to expand the universe beyond the monsters and massive weapons that define it, and I kinda loved it for it. It became apparent pretty quickly though that the themes of people and their relationship to the environment were the core pillars that the game wants you to know about. At various points, you're guided through areas to take note of how they are and how they change along the way. Once again, they want this world to really wash over you and just be immersed in it. But there was a bit of a disconnect. Overall, the story is fine. While I do think it comes together into some interesting points in the back half, it's that first half where the issues lie. The beginning plot points feel aimless in how they proceed. It's not a complicated story, just disjointed in its approach. There's a bit too much meandering with meeting new characters who offer little to the overall plot, but not adding anything interesting to fill those gaps either. But, like I said, it does get interesting in the later bits. The story is definitely not the game's strong suit. They tried, and I give them credit for that, but being a review and thinking critically, it could have and maybe should have been better. It does have its moments though. Monster introductions and major scenes are awesome and some of Capcom's best work. And I gotta say, having contextual reasons to hunt the monsters this time is also a really neat touch. Where Wilds excels though is its gameplay. The monster hunting action has never felt better thanks to some new additions and a bevy of quality of life changes. These are done not only to iterate on the formula, but to also welcome new players and give veterans new mechanics to chew on. For new mechanics, we have things like offset counters, clashes, wounds, and I'm sure a few others. Each of these brings some new bit of action to the battles. Offsets are these gigantic counterattacks that knock monsters down, clashes are struggles of wills, wounds are unique attacks that are meant to break monsters' weak points, and it just all flows together perfectly. All of these new mechanics blend well into the usual formula of well-placed attacks and dodging that Monster Hunter brings to the table. None of them felt out of place, thankfully, just a natural evolution of the systems. Seasoned hunters might be a bit offended by these, however, given that they're another element that favors the player over the monsters. Still, the uniqueness and added playability that they bring beyond just hitting a monster until it goes down is welcome in my opinion. There are no new weapons in Wilds, but each one has gone through a number of changes and additions to their kits. Even the most simple weapons on the surface can have quite a bit of depth to them. This has always been a staple of the series, so if you're a gameplay head, Wilds has your back. Where they mix things up though is by having a secondary weapon that can be switched to at any time. The added versatility to your kit is a fun way to expand fights. Toss in quite a lot of expanded environmental attacks this time, and you got yourself a fun, frantic combat system. Constantly engaging the monster is what I would call it. Everything seems poised to keep you in the fight as much as possible with your weapons or that mass of loose rocks above. Of course, the point of all this is to get those sweet drops for monsters. The campaign run is a bit weird in that you're almost never left wanting for parts to craft your new weapon or armor. But once you reach the post-credits, the real game begins. Rare loot is to be found, and you're going to have to fight quite a bit to see those more troublesome pieces. But let's be clear, that's where the fun of the series is. Harder and harder fights give better and better rewards. It's called High Rank for those who are out of the loop. It features a whole slew of new items, equipment, and most importantly, monsters to hunt. The experience really comes alive in High Rank thanks to the amount of new things to do and see. To entice you even more, the story and side quests also continue, giving you more things to chew on instead of a simple new target to farm without context. Outside of the fighting though, the experience is similar to the past games. Gathering resources from fields while you're exploring is the name of the game. A majority of your healing items, traps, and everything else really just comes from finding them in the field and then crafting them. Some of the more rare resources are a bit simpler to find this time around thanks to the map, which lets you track and autopilot to them very simply. Speaking of, this time around we're given a mount called a secret. The secret moves quickly and autopilots to objectives. It's a great way to keep on task, but I also think it takes away something important. The sense of exploration is really cut down in this game as a result of mainlining objectives at every moment. Extra items, areas, and just wonder are stripped away in a lot of the game. In general though, the secret itself is great. I love this thing. It does indeed lightly poke you to explore at points, but until you reach the post-credits, the game is a bit too restrictive in what it shows and tells. I didn't really know why I felt this way until I realized there was a whole canopy section to the forest, and a number of other secret areas across the game. You're never prompted to go into these places in the campaign, but just looking for items later, I was absolutely blown away with some of the expanded maps. That disconnected feeling really came into my mind once again when I discovered this. Now, we should really talk about some other issues with Wilds. This game has a weird look to it. It somehow looks great, but kind of bland. Amazing cutscenes and monsters, but cut back to the characters talking stiffly with some really pared back models in-game. But this is Capcom, like RE4 Capcom, and this is Monster Hunter, their biggest franchise. And it just looks washed out and kind of grody in a lot of ways. But it's also quite impressive too at times. When it's a cutscene, this game looks amazing. It really shows what the game as a whole should look like. But once you're in-game, that quality difference is quite jarring with a strange amount of variance in just how bad or good it can look. Once I finally began tweaking settings, it started to look vibrant and nice, but by default it gives quite a bad impression. I highly suggest everyone do the same to get the game looking how you want it to. That said, the monsters look awesome, and the environments too look quite nice under certain conditions. It seems like there's a lot of visual elements here that are clashing at points and giving a bit of a bad impression, sadly. Sometimes on purpose to show an area in decline, but then the reveal of how good the game can actually look when a season is flourishing makes you wonder why they spend so much time in the latter. And then there is the performance. I played this on a base PS5. Overall, it ran fine. Could be better, but not terrible. No major problems on my end, but then there is the PC version, which is kind of a dumpster fire at this point. Lots of mods and tweaks are going into it already, but buyer beware with that one. I do hope it'll be smoothed out soon, but who knows how long it could take. Also, I should mention the UI and menus here. There's a lot of effort to make things more simple, and after a few hours I got used to it, but wow is all I can say. This game is a mess of menus, and even 30 hours later, I'm still fumbling over it at points. It's somehow easier to do some things, but also way harder to understand. It's a bit of a strange caveat. So Monster Hunter Wilds is a great new platform for the series to set off from. I say platform because a lot of elements here feel like they're purpose-built to be expanded on in the future. A lot of work went into making this game a great boarding point, and one that will likely ask players to return to it for years to come, with free and paid updates in the future. It might sound like I'm kinda down on this game, and in some aspects, I am. But honestly, the moment-to-moment gameplay in Monster Hunter is something I just love. So do I recommend it? Absolutely. Wilds is another Monster Hunter that we will spend hundreds, if not more hours in. Its loop of gameplay is just that game. It's cozy, it's challenging, it has a sense of accomplishment. It's all here, and that's what really matters. Presentation and some UI woes are easily overlooked when the whole other package is just as good as it is. Jump in and hunt with us, we'll be here waiting for you. Thank you for checking out my review of Monster Hunter Wilds. I hope you enjoyed it enough to like, sub, and hit those notifications when a new video drops. I hope to see you again next time. Please stay safe out there and have a good one. Happy hunting.